The rake scraped against wet concrete with the sound of resignation. Tyler Matthews dragged it slowly across the leaves scattered around the Ashworth family pool, each stroke deliberate and quiet. He had learned to make himself small in spaces like this, where his presence was tolerated but never welcomed. The October morning in Portland carried the smell of rain and privilege. Behind him, Blake Ashworth lounged on a deck chair, scrolling through his phone while his friends debated which restaurant to hit after their workout. The leaf blower sat unused just feet away, but Tyler knew better than to reach for it. Blake had made that clear on his first day. "Too loud," he had said with a smirk. "We're trying to relax here." The unspoken message hung heavier than the Oregon mist. People like Tyler were meant to remain invisible, their labor quiet and unobtrusive. Tyler adjusted the thin rainbow bracelet on his wrist, a gift from his younger brother Danny, before the latest round of chemotherapy. The small gesture of pride felt both precious and dangerous in this carefully manicured world, where difference was something to be hidden or explained away. From the kitchen window, Patricia Ashworth watched her 19-year-old son with growing unease. Blake's laughter carried a sharp edge when he pointed out Tyler to his friends, using words like "you people" and lifestyle choices with casual cruelty. The phrases pierced through Patricia like echoes from another time. In her bedroom that morning, she had discovered something that made her hands tremble. Hidden beneath old photo albums was a letter she had avoided reading for 28 years. Michael's handwriting, shaky from medication, pleaded from a hospital bed where conversion therapy had left him broken. His final words haunted her. Silence can be as sharp as any word spoken. "Linda, I hope one day you'll understand how much it hurt to be abandoned." Tyler paused his work to check his phone. 3 jobs today, landscaping until noon, Starbucks until 6, then Uber Eats deliveries until midnight. Danny's insurance covered 60% of his treatment, but 60% of hundreds of thousands still left a mountain of debt that grew taller each week. He pulled out a worn peanut butter sandwich wrapped in plastic. His lunch balanced on the edge of a planter, while Blake's group ordered gourmet pizza from their lounge chairs. The contrast wasn't lost on Patricia, who remembered her brother surviving on charity meals, while their family dined in restaurants he could never afford. Blake caught sight of Tyler's bracelet and felt something twist in his stomach. The colors reminded him of feelings he buried deep. Attraction to his friend Marcus that he channeled into rage instead of acceptance. Being cruel to Tyler felt like building a wall against his own truth. When Tyler bent to collect fallen leaves near the pool's edge, Blake deliberately aimed his conversation toward him. "Maybe some people just don't belong in decent neighborhoods," he said loud enough to carry. His friends laughed, but Tyler's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. Patricia stepped outside, her footsteps measured and purposeful. The sight of her son weaponizing privilege against someone whose only crime was existing while different brought back every moment she had failed Michael. Every dinner table where she had stayed silent while their father raged. Every hospital visit she had avoided until it was too late. Tyler looked up as she approached, expecting to be dismissed or criticized for moving too slowly. Instead, she offered him something he hadn't received in this neighborhood before: basic human recognition. Her voice carried quiet authority when she suggested Tyler take a break and grab some pizza. Blake's immediate objection revealed more than he intended. His panic at seeing barriers break down, exposing the fear underneath his cruelty. As Tyler hesitated at the threshold between acceptance and rejection, Patricia understood something that would reshape everything. The boy carrying leaves with quiet dignity deserved protection from the kind of hatred that had destroyed her brother. And her son, trapped in his own prison of expected masculinity, needed saving too. Sometimes the most profound transformations begin not with grand gestures, but with the simple recognition that every person's humanity matters more than the comfort of those who would deny it. Don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories for more powerful stories of courage, transformation, and love conquering prejudice. The football spiraled through the autumn air with calculated precision, aimed not at the target Blake's friend had suggested, but directly at Tyler's back as he hung Christmas lights along the house's eaves. The impact sent Tyler stumbling, his ladder swaying dangerously before he managed to steady himself. Blake's laughter cut through the afternoon silence, sharp and hollow. "Maybe he shouldn't be here anyway," he said to his friends, loud enough for Tyler to hear. The words carried more venom than the accident itself, revealing the intention behind what others might dismiss as boyish carelessness. Patricia witnessed the entire exchange from her kitchen window, watching her son's face transform with a cruelty that made her blood run cold. The expression reminded her of their father during his worst moments, when Michael's gentle nature had triggered something violent in him. She found herself in her bedroom again, pulling out the box she had hidden for nearly 3 decades. Michael's medical records from the conversion therapy facility painted a picture of systematic torture, electroshock treatments, isolation chambers, forced medication. Her brother had endured it all in a desperate attempt to become someone their family might love. Tyler climbed down the ladder slowly, his hand pressed against his shoulder where the football had struck. He said nothing about the pain, just began collecting the scattered lights with the same quiet determination that had carried him through 2 years of being his brother's sole caregiver. Blake watched from the deck, expecting anger or confrontation. But Tyler's silence unsettled him more than any retaliation would have. Something about the boy's dignity in the face of cruelty reminded Blake of Marcus, who had quietly endured Blake's increasingly hostile behavior as his own confusion about attraction grew. When Patricia stepped outside, her voice carried an authority that stopped all conversation. Blake's defensive explanations died in his throat as she asked him to step inside immediately. His friends exchanged uncomfortable glances, sensing the shift in atmosphere that preceded serious consequences. In the living room, Patricia opened the conversation with a directness that left Blake nowhere to hide. The homophobic language, the deliberate cruelty, the casual dehumanization. She had heard it all, and more importantly, she understood where it originated. Blake's face flushed as he tried to deflect responsibility. It was just a joke, he insisted. Tyler was too sensitive. Everyone talked that way. The excuses crumbled as Patricia shared something that changed everything. She told him about Michael, about the brother she had lost to hatred disguised as love, about conversion therapy and the way society had convinced their family that difference was disease, about standing silent while her brother was tortured for the crime of loving authentically. Blake's defensive posture began to crack as Patricia described finding Michael's body, the note that blamed no one but begged for understanding that came too late. The weight of generational pain settled over the room like fog, thick and suffocating. Tyler's real situation emerged piece by piece, not just a landscaping job, but the termination from his office position when his supervisor suspected his orientation, the rejected apartment applications when landlords found excuses to discriminate, the cascade of economic violence that followed social rejection. Patricia learned about Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman who had offered Tyler and Danny shelter when nowhere else felt safe, about insurance copays that consumed entire paychecks and the careful mathematics of survival that governed every financial decision. Blake sat stunned as the scope of his privilege became undeniable. College tuition paid without question, car insurance covered by family plans, social acceptance assumed rather than fought for. Everything Tyler struggled to secure had been handed to Blake simply because of the circumstances of his birth. The ultimatum Patricia delivered carried the weight of accumulated regret. Blake would experience what Tyler lived every day, understanding through action rather than observation. The PlayStation was the least of what might be lost. College funding, family support, the safety net that had always protected him from consequence. As Blake processed the magnitude of his situation, something deeper began to surface. The fear that had driven his cruelty, the questions about himself that he had projected onto Tyler instead of examining honestly. Maybe Tyler's crime wasn't being different. Maybe it was being brave enough to live authentically while Blake remained trapped in pretense. The evening ended with Blake alone in his room, staring at his reflection and wondering if the person he had become was someone he could bear to remain. Outside, Tyler continued working in the gathering darkness, unaware that his quiet strength had begun to crack open the very foundations of someone else's carefully constructed world. The blisters formed across Blake's palms before noon, raw patches where the unfamiliar weight of honest work had torn through soft skin. He paused in hanging Christmas lights to examine the damage, sweat stinging his eyes despite the cool December air. From the warmth of the house, Tyler watched through the window with something approaching compassion rather than satisfaction. Mrs. Chen had taught him that suffering shared was diminished, never multiplied, even when that suffering served as education. Blake's first attempt at the leaf work lasted exactly 47 minutes before his back began screaming in protest. The rake felt impossibly heavy, each motion requiring deliberate effort rather than the thoughtless efficiency Tyler had demonstrated. The leaves seemed to multiply rather than diminish, scattered by wind that mocked his inexperienced technique. Inside, Tyler opened a book he had borrowed from Powell's extensive LGBTQ section, reading about the history his generation had inherited. Stories of pioneers who had fought for the simple right to exist openly, to love without criminalization, to work without fear. Their struggles made his own daily navigation seem less isolated. His phone buzzed with a text from Danny, sent between chemotherapy sessions. The message was brief but warm, asking about his day and reminding Tyler not to skip meals again. The role reversal still felt strange, his younger brother worrying about him when Danny was the one fighting for his life. Blake discovered Tyler's other employment when he attempted to apply for the Starbucks position himself, curious about the multiple job requirements that shaped Tyler's daily existence. The rejection came swiftly, delivered with corporate politeness that barely concealed class prejudice. Lack of customer service experience, they explained. Though Blake understood the real translation, the Uber Eats application proved equally illuminating. Blake's suburban address triggered different algorithmic responses than Tyler's inner-city location, revealing how geography determined opportunity even in supposedly neutral digital platforms. The realization that systematic barriers operated at every level left Blake questioning assumptions he had never thought to examine. Patricia found him in the attic that evening, shoulders shaking as he held something she thought had been lost forever. Michael's rainbow flag, carefully preserved despite their father's demands to destroy everything that reminded them of his difference. The fabric was faded but intact, a testament to love that had survived hatred. Blake's questions came slowly, hesitantly, about Michael's experiences, about conversion therapy, about the generation of families who had been convinced that love was pathological. Patricia answered with the honesty she wished she had offered decades earlier, describing treatments that were torture disguised as medicine. Tyler's chosen family revealed itself gradually to Blake's expanding awareness. Mrs. Chen, who had offered shelter without question or judgment. Hospital staff who remembered Tyler's visits and inquired about Danny's progress with genuine care. A community built on mutual support rather than blood relations or social expectations. The contrast struck Blake forcefully during a quiet evening when Tyler received multiple calls from people checking on his well-being. Friends who noticed when he seemed stressed, who offered practical help without being asked. The network of care that had formed around Tyler and Danny operated with an efficiency that Blake's biological family had never achieved. Blake's own internal questions began surfacing during the long hours of physical labor. Attraction to Marcus, which he had buried under hostility, demanded honest examination rather than continued denial. The fear that had driven his cruelty toward Tyler was rooted in recognition rather than difference. Conversations with Mrs. Chen during Tyler's work breaks educated Blake about the necessity of chosen family for those rejected by biological relatives. Her own history included children who had disappeared rather than face family shame, wounds that had never fully healed despite her strength. The mathematics of Tyler's survival became clear through Blake's failed attempts to replicate his schedule. 3 jobs barely covered Danny's medical expenses and basic living costs. Every financial decision involved sacrifice. Every purchase weighed against medical necessities. The stability Blake had assumed was universal was actually extraordinary privilege. By week's end, Blake's understanding had shifted fundamentally. Tyler's daily navigation of systematic discrimination required a strength that Blake had never needed to develop. The quiet dignity that Blake had initially dismissed as weakness was actually resilience forged through necessity. When Tyler offered to help Blake with the Christmas lights despite having no obligation to do so, the gesture revealed something profound about grace. Kindness offered without expectation of return, understanding extended even to those who had caused harm. The work that had once seemed beneath Blake's consideration now carried different meaning. Not degradation, but dignity earned through honest effort. Not punishment, but education in the reality that most people navigated without complaint. That evening, Blake sat with the rainbow flag spread across his bed, understanding finally that courage was not the absence of fear, but action taken despite it. Tyler lived that courage daily, simply by existing authentically in a world that had given him every reason to hide. The OHSU Doernbecher Children's Hospital corridor displayed rainbow artwork that made Tyler's shoulders relax in ways Blake was only beginning to understand. Here, difference was celebrated rather than merely tolerated, creating sanctuary in a world that remained largely hostile. Blake followed Tyler through halls decorated for Pride Month, past photographs of families that looked like the chosen communities Tyler had described. Same-sex parents holding newborns, transgender teens smiling with grandparents. Love presented in forms that Blake's suburban world had rendered invisible. Danny looked smaller than Blake had expected, his 16-year-old frame diminished by months of treatment, but his spirit undaunted. The protective way he watched Tyler revealed a relationship built on mutual care rather than traditional age hierarchies. Danny had become Tyler's anchor as much as Tyler had become his guardian. The social worker who joined their conversation spoke about statistics that transformed abstract discrimination into concrete consequences. LGBTQ youth comprise 40% of homeless teenagers, despite being only 7% of the total youth population. The numbers represented lives disrupted, families fractured, potential loss to prejudice. Tyler's story emerged in pieces, each revelation recalibrating Blake's understanding of survival and sacrifice. Their parents had not died in an accident, but had kicked Tyler out at 17 when he refused to deny his identity. The car crash that killed them had occurred while they drove drunk to retrieve him, guilt and alcohol mixing into tragedy. Danny had chosen Tyler over their parents, defending his brother's right to exist authentically, even when it meant losing family stability. At 14, he had demonstrated moral clarity that adults twice his age had failed to achieve. The decision had cost them everything material, but preserved everything essential. Blake learned about healthcare discrimination that extended beyond insurance coverage. Emergency room staff who treated Tyler with suspicion, specialists who made assumptions about his character based on presentation, the exhausting labor of advocating for dignity in medical settings designed to strip it away. Patricia shared conversion therapy details that left Blake nauseated. Electroshock treatments designed to associate same-sex attraction with pain. Isolation chambers that drove patients towards psychological breakdown. Religious manipulation that weaponized faith against identity. Michael had endured months of systematic torture, believing it would purchase family acceptance. The hospital's LGBTQ support group met that afternoon. Teenagers and young adults navigating challenges that Blake had never imagined. Housing instability, employment discrimination, family rejection, medical barriers. Their resilience in the face of systematic oppression was both inspiring and heartbreaking. Danny included Blake in conversations with casual acceptance that highlighted the difference between tolerance and inclusion. Here was someone who had never needed to learn acceptance because it came naturally, unmarked by the fear that had poisoned Blake's early responses to difference. Tyler's advocacy for Danny's medical care revealed skills developed through necessity. Insurance appeals, treatment research, coordination between specialists, the full-time job of managing chronic illness within a system designed for those with traditional family support and financial resources. Blake tentatively shared his own questioning about identity, the attraction to Marcus that he had buried under hostility and denial. Tyler's response was free of judgment, offering support without pressure, understanding that identity exploration was a journey rather than a destination. The conversation expanded to include discussion of bisexuality, the challenge of existing between categories that others insisted were mutually exclusive. Tyler's comfort with complexity helped Blake understand that identity could be both certain and evolving, stable and fluid. Mrs. Chen arrived during visiting hours, bringing homemade soup and the kind of unconditional presence that biological families often struggle to provide. Her acceptance of Blake, despite knowing about his past behavior, demonstrated the generosity that defined chosen family structures. Patricia witnessed interactions that revealed how love could flourish without conditions or restrictions. Danny and Tyler's relationship, Mrs. Chen's parental care, the hospital staff's genuine concern, community built on choice rather than obligation often proved more durable than blood ties. Blake understood finally that Tyler's maturity was not natural superiority, but survival skill developed through necessity. Circumstances had demanded growth that Blake's protection from consequence had never required. The strength was earned rather than innate. The medical reality of Danny's treatment included financial calculations that would bankrupt most families. Experimental therapies, medication costs, insurance battles, the constant balance between hope and economic possibility. Tyler navigated it all with competence that belied his age. As evening approached, Blake found himself integrated into a community that operated according to principles his own family had never practiced. Acceptance without condition, support without expectation, love that expanded rather than contracted when tested by difference. The day's education extended beyond personal revelation to systematic understanding. Individual prejudice was supported by institutional discrimination, personal hatred enabled by structural oppression. Changing hearts required changing systems. Individual growth demanded collective action. Blake's hands trembled slightly as he placed the PlayStation box beside Danny's hospital bed. But this gesture was only the beginning of a transformation that would ripple far beyond one family's story. The gift represented acknowledgement of harm done and commitment to repair that extended beyond personal apology into systematic change. The Michael Ashworth LGBTQ Youth Support Fund emerged from Blake's trust fund. Money that had previously served only his own comfort now redirected toward addressing the housing, healthcare, and educational barriers that kept young people like Tyler trapped in cycles of discrimination and economic instability. Patricia's journey from silent bystander to active advocate began with her first P-Flag meeting, where she shared Michael's story and her own failure to protect him. Her testimony about conversion therapy dangers reached families across Oregon, preventing other parents from making choices that had destroyed her brother and nearly poisoned her son. Blake's coming out as bisexual was supported by the same family that had once participated in systematic oppression, proof that education could transform even deeply rooted prejudice into understanding. The affirmative therapy Patricia arranged addressed generational trauma while supporting authentic identity exploration. Tyler accepted the position with Nike's diversity and inclusion team, work that provided comprehensive benefits for Danny's ongoing treatment while allowing Tyler to develop policies that would protect other LGBTQ employees from discrimination. His lived experience informed initiatives that reached beyond symbolic gestures into structural change. The Anti-Discrimination Initiative Blake launched at Portland State University created safe reporting mechanisms and educational programming that reached thousands of students. Personal transformation had evolved into institutional reform, individual healing catalyzing broader social justice efforts. Danny's treatment was fully funded through the foundation, eliminating the financial stress that had dominated Tyler's daily existence for 2 years. With medical security established, Tyler could pursue his social work degree full-time, preparing for a career focused on helping other LGBTQ youth navigate systematic barriers. The partnership with Outside and expanded the foundation's reach into direct service provision, funding emergency housing, mental health care, and educational support for displaced LGBTQ youth throughout the Pacific Northwest. Individual generosity became community transformation through strategic alliance building. Blake's advocacy work included speaking at schools about the connection between bullying and systematic oppression, helping educators understand how casual discrimination created environments where hatred flourished. His own journey from perpetrator to ally provided credibility that academic presentations often lacked. Patricia's business implemented inclusive policies that became models for other companies, demonstrating that ethical practices enhanced rather than hindered profitability. Workplace discrimination training addressed unconscious bias while creating accountability systems for reporting and addressing harmful behavior. The Foundation's first annual report documented measurable impact: 50 youth housed, 200 provided with healthcare access, 30 enrolled in educational programs previously beyond their financial reach. Statistical success represented individual lives transformed, families healed, potential preserved rather than lost to prejudice. Tyler's speaking engagement at the National LGBTQ Youth Conference reached thousands, his story demonstrating that resilience was possible even in the face of systematic oppression. The chosen family he had built with Danny, Mrs. Chen, and others illustrated alternative models of love and support. Blake attended Portland Pride with Tyler and Danny, volunteering at the Foundation's booth while witnessing celebration that had once triggered his fear and hostility. The festival represented community strength built through decades of resistance. Joy claimed despite ongoing persecution. The Powell's Books event, featuring LGBTQ literature and mental health education, drew overflow crowds, evidence of hunger for stories that reflected diverse experiences. Tyler and Blake spoke together about healing across difference, their joint presentation modeling the possibility of redemption and growth. Thanksgiving dinner at Mrs. Chen's house included biological and chosen family members, traditional and non-traditional food, gratitude expressed in multiple languages and cultural forms. The celebration demonstrated that love expanded rather than contracted when it embraced difference rather than demanding conformity. The Foundation's work expanded beyond immediate crisis intervention into systematic advocacy, supporting legislation that protected LGBTQ youth in schools, healthcare settings, and employment contexts. Individual healing had evolved into political action that would benefit future generations. Blake's relationship with Marcus developed into partnership built on authenticity rather than denial, proof that acceptance of self enabled genuine connection with others. Their engagement represented not just personal happiness, but community celebration of love in all its forms. Patricia found purpose in legislative testimony about conversion therapy bans, her brother's story providing evidence for policies that would protect other families from choosing torture disguised as love. Michael's death gained meaning through prevention of similar tragedies. When the Foundation reached its second anniversary, Tyler reflected on transformation that had begun with a football thrown in anger and had evolved into systematic change that would outlast any individual story. Personal healing had become community resilience. Individual courage had inspired collective action. What moments of privilege have you witnessed that could become opportunities for justice? How might your own story contribute to creating a world where every young person can live authentically and safely? Subscribe to Heart Stories for more inspiring tales of transformation, where individual courage creates waves of positive change that reshape entire communities.